Welcome to the True You Show Season 3. My name is Alexandra Deubner. I'm a transformational coach from Vienna, Austria, and I'm hosting this show to help you actually get the motivation, inspiration, and the tools to courageously create success, freedom, and happiness doing what you truly love, especially in these crazy times. And today I have a very special guest, Katrine Horn. Hi, welcome, Katrine. So nice to see you here.
Oh, it's lovely to be with you. Thank you.
Yeah, and I'm super excited because you are actually, we just discussed this, right? You are actually also in Europe, so that's really nice. So we're really covering most of the, the continents here in this show. So it's really nice to have somebody also from Europe. You're living in France, right?
Yes, I'm based in France. Yeah.
So beautiful. So Katrine, let me really quickly introduce you. You are, and I love that you are committed to showing up at your best, whether you're having a tea with a friend or doing a TED Talk. I love that. And you follow your desires, making sure to live your life on the edge of what is possible and always seeking new scope for your talents. And you actually lead women to live by design rather than by default. Yes, never perfect, yet always delightfully genuine, using all their gifts and talents, even the ones they never knew they had, like passion, love, joy, and success as the result. So happy to have you here with us, Katrine. So awesome.
I'm delighted. Thank you for inviting me.
Yeah, I'm so happy. And I mean, this fits perfectly. And so let me start because there's so many questions that come up to my mind. Let me start by asking you, can you share a bit of your personal story and how you managed to find and follow your true calling?
Well, thank you for asking me. Following my true calling. I don't know whether I'm doing that, but anyway, I'm one of them, right? Because I'm always following my desires, and I really trust my desires to lead me to exactly where it is I need to be. So I was born in Denmark, and I didn't want to stay there. So I started playing the harp because I knew if I played the harp, I couldn't stay in Denmark. I would have to move out. And so I formed the very crazy idea when I was just very young, like still at school, that I wanted to emigrate to the UK, to London, to go to music college there. And then, of course, everybody told me, Katrine, you're just so unrealistic, right? Nobody's ever done that. It can't be done. And then I thought, well, maybe it can't, but let me just have a go at it, right? So I did, and it worked out. And that just sort of changed the whole course of my life, because imagine people have been telling me what you really design life, what you really want to do is impossible. So adjust your dreams, please, adjust your desires. Don't listen to your heart anymore. Just, do something reasonable, right? Something realistic. And I'm so glad I didn't, because I saw that, well, actually, lots of things were possible, right? Absolutely, so many things were possible. And so I worked as a musician for a number of years, and that led me to move to Paris in France. And then that led me down to the south of France, where I still am. And from music into teaching, I'm now a life coach, because working in the French educational system, I found out that there were lots of kiddos that were suffering. And that just broke my heart. I spent a lot of time trying to build them up, and then their parents would take them down. So I thought, I've got to work with the parents, right? The key here are the parents. So let me just get hold of the parents so we can work together, and they can really, I believe that happy parents have happy children, right? So that's why I shifted from teaching into life coaching, and also because one of my top values is freedom. And with this life coaching, we've got pretty much a wondrous life, haven't we? Because we can be where we want to be, we can do what we want to do. So we are not limited in any way. So that's how I got into life coaching, really. So that was a long story. I tried to make it short, but
it was short. Actually, I have so many questions, and I totally off script. I would love to know, because it's funny, right? I have freedom. Like the older I get, the more I love freedom, and the more important it becomes. And it's also in the title, right? So my question to you is, how can we create freedom?
Yes, so that's an excellent question. I don't know whether you agree with me, but I used to think that freedom was not to have a schedule, Freedom was to be able to travel, to live anywhere. Freedom was all these things. But as you just said, growing older, I've come to realize that freedom for me is really not being caught up in my emotions. So I've managed to create the distance between me, who I am, and the emotions I'm feeling. And that is such a great help to me, because I'm no longer forced to go where my emotions lead me, right? I can allow myself to direct my emotions. Like I can direct my thoughts that will then direct my emotions. So I'm no longer in all that sort of whirlwind of being pulled and drawn and taken everywhere. So I think for me, the freedom is in emotional freedom. So I'm no longer afraid of feeling fear. I'm no longer afraid of feeling disappointment. I'm no longer afraid of all these things. And once you're no longer afraid of feeling your negative emotions, that sets you free completely. Do you see what I mean? I don't know what you think.
Totally. And I was just thinking, because you know, I love the concept, and I think for our viewers here now, could you give a tip like how they can start doing that?
Yeah, I can talk about that for about 7 hours, but let's not.
We will have an extra show just with you, Katrine.
If you see, you can work with your thoughts, right? Some of us try to not think our thoughts, and we try not to feel our feelings because we don't want to, because we think, oh, I shouldn't be having negative thoughts. But we are human beings, and we've got brain, and we will have thoughts. So we can't stop our thoughts, right? So there's no point in trying. What we can do is, when we are consistently thinking what we would term negative thoughts, like I'm no good, I'm ugly, I'm fat, whatever it is that we are thinking, this never works out for me, we can start modifying those thoughts ever so slightly. So what we do sometimes in personal development is we have these mantras. So we go from feeling I'm fat and ugly to I'm the most gorgeous woman on earth. And this doesn't work, does it? Because I mean, I can't believe that I'm the most gorgeous woman on earth. I can believe that I'm gorgeous. I'm willing to believe that I'm gorgeous, but I mean, not the most gorgeous woman on earth. So there's no point in telling myself that. And maybe if you are coming from I'm feeling fat and ugly, maybe you could just shift that thought a little bit to, what if I am good enough as I am? What if I'm lovable? I am a kind person. At the moment, I've got a few pounds too many. So what? I am a considerate person. I'm a loving person. So we can start shifting our thoughts from that negative point that we have got a tendency to always go to, and think something slightly more positive. And so we can take it in little, what I call baby steps. And that is how you start thinking differently, so that you can start feeling differently.
Yeah, I love that. And it always starts with the mindset, right?
Mm.
So before I ask you about, you know, deeper knowledge and how we can actually create success, freedom, and happiness, do you have one or two other tools, some mindset tools, how we can also stay generally on track, right, and follow our dreams? We come to that in a second.
Yes. So we've got a tendency to say, what if I fail, right? What if this doesn't work out? And I know when we first connected, I said that I wanted to live in a chateau, right? And that is my impossible dream. And I can tell myself, Katrina, come on, you will never live in a chateau. I mean, that is just so far-fetched. You know, you're not a princess, you're not a queen, you're not, I mean, you're nobody special, right? So you won't live in a chateau. So we can say, what if I try to go for my dream? What if I really allow myself to desire my dream so much? I can actually start being a little bit afraid of being disappointed, right? I can self-protect by telling myself, yeah, this is not so reasonable, so maybe I should not dream that, right? So I've got a lot to say that on mindset. You can start telling yourself, well, what if I fail? So that is not very interesting. You can start asking yourself, well, what if I succeed? Yeah. What if this was actually not only possible, but extremely likely?
Yeah.
What if this was happening in a very short time? What if this didn't need to take a long time? What if this was possible to move towards it already today? What if today I could do one thing? Like you can see me in this setting because I just finished my boudoir, what I call my boudoir.
So
and
beautiful.
yeah, so I decorated a little bit in a chateau style so that I get to feel every day that, well, actually, I'm already in a sort of chateau. Do you see what I mean?
Totally. And actually, when we emailed, I felt like, yeah, it's definitely, it's already done. When you wrote this, when we wrote back and forth, I was like, okay, so you have your chateau, no problem. Yeah, it's already done, Katrina. So really, so I can, like, I'm manifesting that with you right now. Like the moment you wrote it, you have one person that decided, I want to visit you in your chateau, just saying.
Well, please do come. Yes, because you supporting me in that, it's becoming even more real to me now, right? Okay, so I know that when I've got my chateau, you'll be coming. So the more I share my dream with everybody around me, of course, you shouldn't share your dreams with wet blankets, right? Because there's some people who can't play along with you. There's some people who can't imagine that for themselves. So they try to protect you by saying, you know, Katrina, this is just too far off. This is just not plausible. So they try to protect me. So it's very kind of them, but I don't need that protection. So you can't expect everybody to play with you when you're talking about your dreams. So I think we should be a little bit selective.
Yeah, and I love that. And thank you for actually pointing it out, because what do we do, right, with people who don't feel the same way, like that everything is possible? What is your tip? What can we say to them?
Yeah, so we don't have to say anything. That's a good thing, because we can't actually micromanage what other people think. And they are free to think what they want to think. But what we can tell ourselves is, like, let's just pretend that you said, well, Katrina, living in a chateau, I don't think it's for you. I could say, oh, do you think so? Right. And I can tell myself, so Alexandra, she doesn't want to live in a chateau, so she finds it difficult to imagine that people will want that and that it's possible. Or Alexandra doesn't trust herself enough to believe in her dreams. I can start explaining your behavior to myself so that I don't have to reject you, right? I don't have to make it mean anything about me. I just let that mean something about you, right? I don't have to make it mean anything. It's just, well, okay, you couldn't play with me on this idea, and that's no big deal. We're cool, right?
I love that. And it actually also really means, and it's so great that you pointed it out, right, that we don't get shattered. Like we can stand tall like a wonderful tree, right, with our roots deeply grounded. And there comes wind and so on, but we still are there, and we can still have our dreams and all of that, and we stay strong and stronger. Yeah.
Yeah, we stay stronger. But I mean, if you're not very good at being rooted, like if you're not very firm in your tree here, I would suggest that you do not share your dreams with people who are unable to enjoy them, I would say.
Yeah.
So keep them to yourself and unleash them on people who can be enthusiastic with you, who are willing to play with you on that.
Yeah. Awesome. So Katrina, we have a deal. I come and visit you in your chateau. Just tell me when, okay? I bring the champagne.
Yes, I will. I certainly will.
Cool. Awesome. So general advice. What general advice, Katrina, do you have on how to actually create success, freedom, and happiness doing what you truly love, especially in these crazy times?
Yeah, so the crazy times are always happening. So we are in Europe. So at the moment, they're happening slightly closer to us than usual, right? But people are always being killed. People always die of disease, and there's always some disaster somewhere, always, right? So I'm not suggesting that we become totally oblivious to what goes on in the world, but there is a way of focusing on something different. And what could be better than focusing on your dreams? I mean, in our life experience, we can choose to focus on what makes us sad, or we can choose to focus on what makes us feel good. So saying that, the other night, we just heard about some other atrocities in Ukraine, and we found it, I'm saying we because I live with my husband, and we found it quite difficult to go to sleep, right? So I don't normally hear any news like late in the evening because I don't want to be influenced by that. I think we really have to be careful with what we let into our world. Like I suggest that we don't share our dreams with just anybody, and that we don't really focus just anywhere, because in our crazy world, we are pulled everywhere, aren't we, by the media, via what people talk to us about. We can be pulled anywhere. So we don't actually have to go there. So that is what I would suggest, that we self-protect, and we can talk a little bit about boundaries, because I'm aware of what is happening in the world, but I choose not to focus on that. I choose to focus on something different. And I think to be successful, you have to be able to manage your minds, because if you just let your mind go any old way, anywhere, that, oh, well, this is moving, this is, there's a light over here, this is a shining object. Well, then you haven't got your focus. And I like to talk about design. And you can't design as long as you're reacting, right? So you have to, first of all, calm all that down and then focus. And when you can start to focus, then you can start to choose, and then you can start to design. So I don't know whether that answered your question a little bit.
Totally. So it's really about, to actually you answered several questions, right? Because it's also for me a form of being stuck when you're all over the place. And you like that's when you stay stuck and you're not in motion anymore. And so it's the focus, right? The focus on your dreams, on your vision, that keeps you going in the end, right? And no matter what times they are. But I hear this very often, I don't know about you, but I hear this very often, oh, these times are crazy and so on. And that's why I decided to actually make a summit on that also, because we can stay true to ourselves and follow our dreams despite any circumstances, because there are no excuses, right?
Well, it's a convenient excuse. I found actually that COVID and all the lockdowns we had was such a good excuse for so many people not to do anything. And I'm not coming from a sort of blaming attitude. I just want to create awareness that there's always going to be something. I mean, there's going to be COVID, there's going to be war, there's going to be something that will stop us, right? And if we don't value our dreams enough to prioritize them, then we're never going to get to live our dreams, are we? Like, if we always focus on our dreams and let them guide us, well, we can be aware of what's happening, but we've got our dream here and we're moving towards our dream. Now, when we're moving towards our dream, when we're creating our success, well, then we are a lot less unlikely to get distracted, right? We can focus so much better when we are in motion. It's like being on a bike. If you're on your bike and you stop, it's very difficult to stay upright without putting your foot down. But as long as you're in motion, it's really quite easy. Right? So if we sit back and say, oh, I can't move now because COVID is happening. Oh, I can't move because I can't travel. Oh, I can't move. Well, then you can't, can you? But if you keep your forward movement, it might not look exactly the way you thought it would, but at least keep moving. Like an example is, we just had some work done to our house. I say just, it happened 2 years ago, just before lockdown. So we got everything finished before the lockdown, just before the first lockdown. And then we were in lockdown and we wanted to have concerts here in our home. And obviously with lockdown, that was no longer possible. But now, 2 years later, we are out of lockdown and we no longer need a sanitary pass in France. So now what happened, an old colleague phoned me up and said, can I come and do a concert at yours? I said, that's it. We kept the motion, we kept moving forward. It wasn't happening for a long time, but that didn't make us lose faith, right? We still knew it was happening, we just didn't know when. But we were still acting as if one day this would be reality. And I didn't have to go out there and do a lot. I just got a phone call and that set the whole thing in motion. So now we're having our first house concert in June.
Oh, enjoy it. Awesome. Great example also. And while you were talking, I just thought about, what about all the people out there who are not really sure what their dream is, right? What advice do you have for them, Katrina?
I think we know. I think, well, all my clients come to me and say, well, Katrina, I don't know what I want. Yeah. And I think that is just self-protection again, right? Because if we really admit it to wanting what we really want, then that could be really, really scary. So what I like to ask people is, and maybe our audience wants to ask itself, that is, if there were no consequences, if there were absolutely no consequences to me wanting what I want, what would I want? What do I desire? And that's what I did with myself and my chateau, because I thought, you can't really want to live in a chateau. I mean, is that true? And so I had to say, well, if there were no consequences, right? What would I really want? You can imagine also a clean slate. If I were a clean slate, what would I put on it? So maybe you need a little bit of support, somebody to hold space for you, like you can do it, and just explore that, because nobody can tell you what you want. Like my chateau could be your worst nightmare. I mean, we can't do that for anybody. What we can do is hold space for people to get clarity around it. So you know somewhere inside of yourself, if you can't name it yet, it's just because you're protecting yourself in some way, because you're thinking, oh, if I want that, maybe my husband won't like it, or what will my family think, or wow, that might mean I will be unemployed, or that might cost a lot of money. And so we prevent ourselves really from going there, don't you think?
Yeah, totally. And what if I fail is a big one also very often.
What if I fail? And I've got another one on that, because I recently thought, and I want to write an email about that to my people, about being at your best, because I'm all about being at my best.
This is so funny. Excuse me, Katrina, because that's my next question. You don't even know that. I love it. So yeah, okay.
Yeah, about being at our best is really where all the enjoyment is. But sometimes we don't show up at our best because, well, what if I show up at my best and I fail? What would that mean? So I prevent myself from showing up as my best. I show up slightly less. That way, when I fail, well, I know why. Yeah, I wasn't at my best.
Yeah,
so I think there's a lot of awareness we can get from that, really. And I speak about it because as a musician, I really self-sabotage a lot. And I think this is really the kernel of truth in it for me, and maybe it could be for you too. So I think if we allow ourselves to be at our best, we have got no excuses anymore. I'm here with you. I feel that I'm at my best. Right? It doesn't mean that I'm perfect, or that I can guarantee my internet will work, or I can't guarantee anything. I don't control everything. But what I do control, I am allowing myself to show up as my best. And that is really where the joy is for me, because if I was not showing up as my best or at my best, it would be slightly unsatisfying to me, wouldn't it? Because, well, I wouldn't really know. I wouldn't have been there like wholeheartedly. And that is why I talk about never perfect, always genuine, right? Because we take responsibility for what we can manage, yeah? And all the rest, what we cannot control, we can't control. And that is all good.
Yeah, so true. And actually, you know, on that, because you also said, right, you're committed to showing as your best, no matter where. And so I was wondering, which 3 or 4 ways of being are you stepping into when you say you're showing up at your best, right? Because I was curious, yeah, what comes up for you? Because I think that's also very helpful, right? Because showing up at your best, when do you know that you're there? So for me, some ways of being came up, and I was wondering what your ways of being are.
Oh, that'd be interesting to find out. But for me, my best is always moving, because my best is always up leveling. So when I was a student, for instance, I would tolerate something in my life that I'm no longer willing to tolerate. So I would tolerate things for myself. Like when I was a student, I used to clean people's homes. And I quite enjoyed that, actually. But what did I want to say with that? I tolerated that my clothes were not very nice.
Mhm.
I bought clothes that were perhaps sometimes cheap,
Mhm.
right? And didn't exactly fit because I was on a budget and all that. So I had a lot of toleration going on in my life. So as I up-leveled through my life, sometimes I had to downscale too, right? But generally speaking, I up-level all through life. And so showing up at my best right now is wearing decent clothes, right? Having sort of a decent hairstyle. Like having fresh flowers is one of my up levels. So my new normal is being in a beautiful room with fresh flowers. That is how I see myself. So obviously I have to go out and get those flowers, right? I have to show up at my best. I can't be sitting here, oh, I haven't got any flowers. Oh, drat. Oh, well, never mind, right? So there's a lot of, I feel like you can see the harp in the background here. And I feel like I'm playing my life on all the strings of the harp, not just on two at the top, right? If I want to live on the edge, if I want to find out what is possible, I always have to not push myself, but just ask myself with curiosity, well, what else is possible, Katrina? What would it look like actually if you showed up for Alexandra right here, right now, at your best? What would that look like? Right?
Yeah.
And then I have to do that. I don't have to, but I choose to do that.
Yes.
Would be more exact. Yeah. So I can, of course, choose to be here in a tracksuit. I could choose to not put on any lipstick. I mean, that is all fine, but it would not feel good to me. This is what feels good to me. So I'm really checking in with how I feel all the time and allowing my feelings to inform, well, what is my best in any given situation, right? Yeah. So if we were out walking in the mountains, Alexandra, I wouldn't be wearing this, right? I wouldn't be wearing the lipstick. So it doesn't mean that I always have to wear lipstick. It's just like, now this is how I want to feel. And I'm allowing myself to feel that. So I'm allowing myself to be at my best.
Oh, I love that. I love that. And finally, I thought totally different. I love everything you said. And for me, it was more the ways of being. So what came up for me, like also when I thought about the question, right, I thought, okay, what would be, which ways of being would support me in showing up at my best with you today? And it was connected and loving and present, were the three things that came up immediately. Like, and that was interesting because I very often advise my clients, you know, step into your ways of being, what will support you. But I actually, it's the combination, right, of the ways of being and everything you just said. Yeah. Like gifting yourself tulips, yeah, beautiful flowers because you deserve it. Yeah. Taking good care of yourself, making, you know, your surroundings beautiful because you deserve it. You're worth it. So important.
I totally agree with you. So one goes with the other. So putting on the lipstick allows me to say, I'm connecting now with you, right? I'm gifting myself that moment. The tulips, I don't have to justify them. I just want flowers, yeah? I don't have to say, oh, I better put in some white tulips today because I'm talking on a summit, right? This is just, I don't have to justify anything. I don't have to remind myself. I can just feel into how I want to feel. And that connects so beautifully with what you say. I believe that setting myself up in my boudoir allows me to feel connected, authentic, loving, and present with you. That is what I believe.
Yeah, I totally agree. So it's really the combination. So it's so beautiful. I love that. And I will integrate your part more now. So I love that. Like on purpose. Yeah. So really consciously. So cool. And I actually, you know, because what came up for me now is like many women have, you know, are struggling with, you know, juggling all the balls in the air, like family and job. And then they maybe want to create a new job or whatever. Yeah. Step up the career ladder, follow the dreams, whatever it looks like. And they seem to have no time for themselves. Yeah. Would you like to speak into that?
Yeah. So we have all got 24 hours in the day, don't we?
Yeah.
Yeah. So whether we are rich or poor, whether we want to upscale or downscale, whether we want a new job, we've got children or not. So as women, I believe that perhaps even biologically, or at least historically, we have been conditioned into taking care of our children because otherwise the human species might not be here. I mean, imagine if mothers had children and they just couldn't be bothered, right? So I think we have got something inside of us that makes us take care of other people. And I think we do that believing that one day we'll get to ourselves, right? So we take care of our husbands, of our children, of our elderly parents. We take care of the committees. We take care of all that. And we believe when once we've taken care enough of other people, well, then we can get to ourselves. And actually, if we're being perfectly honest with ourselves, taking care of all these hordes of people, that actually gives us a lot of value. What if I no longer got my value for what I did for others? What if I got my value from just being me? That is a radically different way of looking at it. So I think we are out, we're shopping around for extra self-value when we do all these things for other people. So if you're considering changing careers, if you're thinking, oh, should I go for it? Should I not go for it? I would just advise you to really follow your desires. What does your heart really tell you? Because, I mean, we don't all have to be like hugely successful businesswomen, do we? We can be hugely successful mothers, or we can be hugely successful homemakers or anything, right? It's just about, well, what are you enjoying the most? And I think if we feel dissatisfaction, like if we're thinking, oh, I'm no longer so happy in my present job, well, I think you'd be well advised to try out for something different. And I think sometimes we don't allow ourselves to dream big enough. And I think we downscale our dreams and then we blame ourselves for not following through, but we're not following through because we're just not very excited about it, because it's not really what we wanted. So often I talk with women who say, oh, maybe I should ask for a pay rise. I say, yeah, that would be a good idea. Why would you do that? Yeah, well, I don't think I'm valued and everything. So, well, what would make you feel valued? Well, actually, and then they start thinking about, well, what would make me feel valued? And sometimes it's nothing to do with what they're doing in their lives. So I think we've got to have the courage, really, to go after our real desires, even when it's inconvenient, right? Even when it's inconvenient for your family, or it's inconvenient for the neighbors, or it's inconvenient for your bank account, or whatever it is, right? We really, I mean, the happiness, as you said, the happiness, love is on the other side of comfortable, isn't it? It's on the edge. It's really playing on all the strings on the harp, not just the top ones or the bottom ones or the middle ones.
Yes, so true, so true. And I love that. I love that metaphor also, you know, with your harp in the back. I love that. And Katrine, before we come to your free gift, I have one more question. What would you say is one of your most important lessons you learned in life so far that you would like to share with this audience?
I get a lot of benefit out of knowing that everybody is always doing his or her best. So that is something I learned when I was a teacher, that maybe other people's best is not my best. It doesn't look anything like my best. But what if they were actually doing their best, right? So that allows me to think well of everybody. That allows me to go a little bit beyond if I feel disappointed because they're not conforming to what I would want them to do, or if they're not doing what I would want them to do. I think that this really takes a lot of the pressure off trying to micromanage other people, right? And just think, okay, to me, this is not good enough, but they're doing their best. So I can't really blame them, right? I don't need to go into the blame. I don't need to go into the complaint. I don't need to go there, because this is actually what's on offer. And if it doesn't suit me, it doesn't suit me.
Yeah, great and important lesson. Thank you, Katrina. And you also have a free gift for our audience, right? Would you like to share?
I think that at the basis of everything we've been talking about is self-love. And if we can feel valuable enough to allow ourselves to take our dreams and desires seriously, well, I think that is really the happiness piece here, right here. And I think we can make other people a lot more happier if we are happier. And I think we can love people a lot more deeply if we love ourselves. So I'm talking about unconditional love. And I would like to help our viewers dive into that if they want to. And I put together 5 daily routines or exercises that you can take yourself through to really ignite that self-love in you. So you can start practicing very tangibly with concrete tools, concrete exercises that you can try out and see if you like, or if it's possible, or what you really want to do. So in my world, we have a self-love ritual that we make sure to do every day, just to anchor us into that belief that we are really the most important thing in our life. Yeah, more important than our children, more important than our bank balance, more important than anything else. It's us, first of all, right? So that doesn't mean we can't treat our children nicely, right? Yeah. It just means that we actually have to treat ourselves exactly in the same way.
Yeah, I love that. And I will download your 5 daily self-love habits as well, Katrina, just saying. So, so valuable. Yeah. So thank you, Katrina. We're actually a little bit over time. I could go on for hours with you. Thank you so much for being here, for sharing your insights and giving all the tips and the wonderful stories. It was a pleasure to have you.
It was a delight to meet you. Thank you very much for having me on here.
Yeah, no, it was my honest pleasure. I hope, dear audience, you enjoyed it at least half as much as I did. And I will send everyone pictures of me visiting Katrina in the chateau once we...
Fabulous.
Once it's done. Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. So thank you everyone for watching today's episode of the True You Show. Never forget to follow your dreams. I believe you can do this, and I can't wait to see you tomorrow at the next episode of the True You Show. Take good care of yourself, follow your dreams, and also follow your heart, and really be kind to yourself. So thanks a lot. Much love. Thank you, Katrine.
Bye.
Bye.